We just completed the radical responsibility session inside the Connection House community. And this is one of my favorite sessions to lead. I believe it to be one of the most impactful things that we can do is to look into where we can take responsibility. I believe the degree to which we take responsibility directly impacts how fulfilled and how great our life can be. Before even getting into this, we needed to establish what is responsibility in this context. When I'm talking about responsibility in my coaching and Love Over Fear coaching, it's distinct from what we're used to in our life. For most people, when they think responsibility, they think heaviness, they think who's to blame, who's at fault, and that's how we walk through life. I picture the first time I learned about responsibility, I think it was a teacher. When I did something, maybe I broke something, and they said, who's responsible for this? Who's to blame for this? That's how I learned about responsibility, and that stayed with me through most of my life. So when we think about responsibility, there's often this connection of what I have to do, what I'm supposed to do. That is not the responsibility we're talking about here. When I'm referring to responsibility, I'm referring to choice of ownership, that I can choose to be responsible for something. I can take ownership over what I can influence in that thing. And that when I do that, I immediately experience a sense of power over what's happening in that thing. So, for example, someone in the community today was talking about wanting to have more purpose in their life. Well, that's hand in hand with the kind of responsibility I'm talking about here. And so, how do we find that? Many people struggle with a sense of purpose, sense of meaning, and it can be very painful to not have that. And also, it can create this kind of paralysis. Where do I start? I want to have this meaning. I want to have this sense of purpose. It's not just going to hit me on the top of the head, is it? And so we're looking at, okay, how can you be responsible for purpose in your life? Well, in order for us to even engage in that conversation, we first must ask, what is the story running in the background keeping me from purpose? So here's the thing, us human beings, we're not looking at life through some blank slate. We're looking at it through a filter. And that filter often comes with limitations. And so one of the limitations this person was sharing is that it's hard to find my purpose. It's hard. Okay. You probably could go to a lot of people and they'd agree with you. It's going to be hard. Well, that right there already sets up your channel for purpose is going to be difficult, which often tells you to be discouraged. It's probably not even going to work out. And before you know it, you're stopped looking for your purpose. So first, we want to acknowledge those stories. It's going to be hard to find it. I don't know where to start. I don't have any skills, whatever it might be. That perspective right there is going to keep you from even starting. And even if you do start, it's going to be really limiting in terms of what you'll be able to discover. So the first thing we can all be responsible for is our story about the thing that we want. Okay? The story about the thing that we want. We can always be responsible for the story we're making up. Some other people in the community said, I can give up the story that I'm not doing enough. I can be responsible for that story. I'm not doing enough. I could give up the story that, what did someone else say? That I'll never be successful. Imagine walking around, you probably can imagine, with this story that you're never going to be successful. Well, how difficult is it to take any action then? Because any action feels like it's not going to work. So for us to actually have some substance and value to those actions, we got to first give up the story. We got to get responsible that I'm making that up. I don't even know. I don't even know if that's true. How can I say that I'll never be successful when that's in the future and I haven't seen the future? This is what people say when we talk about, we project our past onto the future. And our past ends up just being this cycle that we keep reliving. Well, this is how we start to switch that up. So that's the first piece to it. Now, I started the conversation also by, the second part of the conversation was in focusing on wherever we feel stuck, wherever we feel upset, wherever we feel frustration, likely that is optional. In fact, if we were able to take responsibility, if we were open to taking responsibility, with regards to that thing, we will instantly feel a sense of aliveness, freedom, connection, love, you name it. If we can look at this like responsibility as a choice of ownership. Okay, this to me is probably maybe the most important thing in relationships. Because what causes relationships to fail? You are messing this up. You should do better. This is your fault we're in this position. If only you would change, this would work. Seen it a million times, seen it in myself. That's a losing game. It's basically countdown till it's over. If I want something in my relationship to change, my first option to make the biggest difference in that, to influence my relationship, is to look at what I can be responsible for. Not what I'm to blame for, what I could be responsible for. Something I wanted from my wife when our early stages of going out together is I wanted her to open up to me more. I'm a relationship coach. I'm a pretty open guy. I don't really have trouble talking about anything. Now that can be kind of daunting to be with, you know. This is probably why I never chose to date a coach. But I wanted her to open up more. And part of me would just be annoyed that she wasn't opening up more. She should know, like, come on, this is how you build connection. Duh, it's obvious. Well, my intensity and my pushing of that would never help. If anything, it made her quiet and more withheld. So then I was looking at, well, what could I be responsible for? Well, I could be responsible for how I listen to her. I can't make her talk. I can't make her share more. But I could be responsible for how I listen to her. Am I really listening? Do I even pause long enough in our conversation so that she has a chance to talk? There's an uncle in my family who occurs as quite reserved. He seems quite quiet. And sometimes it can appear like he doesn't have anything to say. The funny thing is, his wife, my aunt, is super talkative. And then we started to test out this theory, me and my aunt, that if we paused longer in our conversations, often my uncle would have something brilliant and super interesting to say, but he would never get to because he was just waiting for his turn to talk. We didn't give him a chance to talk. We're too busy, blah, 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 blah. My family's very much like that. And so this is something I could be responsible for in my relationship. It's something my aunt could be responsible for with her relationship. I could take that on. This is everywhere. If we really look at anything we want in our life, there are endless amounts of things we could be responsible for. So once we lay out that menu, what could I be responsible for? Then we get to choose which we're actually willing to be responsible for. This is the great part about this conversation. It is not an obligation. There's nothing you have to do here. I didn't have to listen to my wife better. And I wanted a deeper connection with her. So I looked at what I could be responsible for influencing that connection. And then you let what happens happen. And if it didn't work out, I could look for what else I could be responsible for. This perspective allows us to influence every aspect of our life. But the key ingredients are, can I give up the story I'm telling about how this is? And can I be willing to adopt responsibility as a matter of choice, not as a have to? You take this on in any area of your life, and I promise things will start coming together. I hope you got something from this video. Most importantly, I hope you take something from this video and you apply it. I was a little aggressive with the group today because I was calling people out. I believe in this era of ChatGPT and AI, the use for intelligence and knowledge is rapidly decreasing because we can find anything so quickly. Whether or not it's credible is another story. But this first part of finding information, if we don't have a lack of access to information, then what makes us stand out? What are the key factors for our quality of life? I believe the key factors are courage to apply, courage and application. What we know is useless until it is used. And so the courage to actually act on the 5 steps to have a great relationship, how to be a great communicator, how to find purpose in my life. The courage to implement that is the difference maker in my opinion. And that's the purpose of this community that I run, to actually be an arena, a practice place for people to develop this courage. It's the most important skill as I'm concerned, as far as I'm concerned. And it's confronting and it's scary. But otherwise, yeah, I don't have anything new to tell you. You could just look it up online. You don't need me to give you any new information. I believe the value of this space is it's where you actually practice. It's where you're working out this muscle of courage. So if you want to join, there's probably a link somewhere to do so. If you're already a member of the community, I'm so glad you're here. And I look forward to supporting you to further develop your courage. Talk to you later.